Hi everyone, Bethany here and welcome to my channel, BB Production Studio. Today I am joining the Card Hopping A Year of Fun and Themes and Techniques hosted by the Handmade Happiness Facebook group. I am going to be doing pigment powder. I am going to do two different kinds today. I am going to use the Kaleidoscope powder from Maker Forte, and I'm also going to try a mica powder from Amazon. And also I am going to do the theme of where I live. So a little bit about where I live. I live in Wisconsin. A lot of things remind me of Wisconsin, like trucks. And these are pumpkins. We always went to the pumpkin farm every year. And I love picking pumpkins. I can't wait to do it with my kids this year when the pumpkin farms open. And I'm going to use a couple of older stamp sets for my sentiments. I'm going to use a little bit of the Not Too Shabby stamp set here, and the Spread What Matters from Maker Forte stamp set. So I have cut down a little bit larger than an A2 size card front out of black, and I sprayed some pixie spray onto the stencil. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the Snow Flurries. It's an pigment ink pad from Maker Forte, the Color Hive inks. I absolutely love Color Hive inks. And I am going to smoosh it right through, almost as if it is a graffiti look. Once I've done that, I'm going to set this aside. And I am going to just blend the rest to get a little bit fuller coverage. It's a cheater way of getting full coverage without doing too much extra work. The cool thing about this is when I lift it up, it's going to look like a chalk painting on a chalkboard. So I'm going to go ahead and set this aside. It is a lot of ink and it's going to need some time to dry. So I'm going to set it aside and I'm going to start on my next card. The next card front, I'm going to use white. This one's cut down more to the A2 size card front, and I'm going to use the Spread What Matters stamp set. So the reason why dandelions remind me of Wisconsin is growing up, that was just a big pastime for us to find dandelions and blow them, and it's such a fun thing that I always remember. I'm going to take the heart dandelion and then putting this up on my Stamparatus, and I am going to go ahead and use the Remarkable mini ink pad from Color Hive. It's Eclipse Black. It's a very juicy black. Give it really nice even coverage. One more time around. Before I set this one aside, I am going to go ahead and stamp my sentiment right away. The sentiment I'm picking is Just Breathe. And I'm going to use the same thing again, the black. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and set this aside. So back to the first card front. I'm going to actually use painter's tape, and I'm going to tack it down to my mat. This is a trick I use when I'm not fancy and have a Brutus Monroe sticky mat behind my work. One day, I will have high hopes that someday I will have something as fancy as that. It helps for when you are blending that things don't move. So when it comes to things like mica powders, kaleidoscope powders, there are so many ways. I think I've seen probably at least 20 plus ways to do it. I just have learned to experiment until I find something that I like. So the first one I'm going to use for this card is the Borealis Kaleidoscope powder. I also have the English Mustard, and this one I believe it's Saturn, but don't quote me on that. I will double and triple check what color it is. But what I'm going to do is this first technique. I'm going to spray water into my little thing here. I don't want a lot of water, just enough to dip my powder brush into and mix it and grab a little bit of kaleidoscope powder. So I am essentially creating swooshes of a sunset. I am doing this because last night I was inspired. We had a little bit of the Aurora Borealis this far south, and I thought it was super cool. So I am going to purposely avoid the white truck just because When you're using water, a lot of times it's an instant binder, and I have not really worked with this white pigment ink yet, so I am still trying to figure out what it does, what it can't do, and I'm not going to experiment so much more with it today. But I'm doing a swooshing movement. When I show you in the end, it's going to look a little holographic. I can see from my angle down here it's bluer, up here it's redder, but it's the same pigment. So it moves very nicely. I'm going to build the next color. This, I'm just going to call it Saturn because I think that's what it was. It's a kind of a yellowish color, and I have to thank one of my followers here for this lovely brush I had misplaced. I'm sure the children got into it and lost it on my behalf, but she sent me one a couple months back, and I just love using it. And in fact, I keep it in the plastic case so I always know when it's stolen. I am also using more fallish colors on purpose. So I have this red and then this more gold. This would make a really cool effect on a black card front for Halloween. I've seen a lot of people getting their Halloween stuff out, even though it's still summer, still August, but in some people's worlds, it's never too early. Alright, and then we're going to use some English mustard. I love creating effects with a brush stroke. It is the artist in me. So even though I'm not going up to the exact edge because I don't want to grab any of that white, I'm going to go super close in most areas, but I'm not going to be even, just because I like the fluidity of not being even in my brush strokes. It is just a designer's choice to do that. It's not a necessity. But here you can see how I've created this reverse shadow outline effect by using white as if it were on a chalkboard. It just really stands out. More in person probably. Now I'm going to go ahead and let it dry and show you what I will do with it next. Another trick I have for you is I sprayed my glass mat with water, and now I'm just going to take one of the extra pieces of black cardstock, and I'm just going to grab all of those colors that were left behind, and what will end up happening is there will be a slight shimmer of those colors once it's dry. So now I have a separate container with a little bit of water in it, and I am just going to put the gum arabic, and it becomes a binder when you use it in this form. And then from my Amazon box, I am going to grab this beautiful lilac. I think it is a gorgeous lilac, and I am just going to scoop some in. You want about equal parts of all three, the gum arabic, and experiment what works best for you. And this is gorgeous with a little shimmer to it, and it doesn't take much to color it, so I'm going to go ahead, stir it together. Need a little bit more binder. I didn't realize I put a little too much water in there. So I'm going to let it sit for a minute to let it thicken up, and then we'll start painting. So after it set for a little bit and I stirred it, now we're just going to use brush strokes. It's as if we created a paint color. What happens with this is I could have done several things. I could have just created a background with this color as if it were painted on, or I could have gone ahead and stamped out separately, fussy cut it, die cut it, however. But sometimes I like seeing the strokes, the thought process behind why you choose what you choose when you design a card or create some artwork. And because there's a binder, you don't have to worry so much about your sentiment, your stamp, as long as you have let that ink dry fully. So the difference you'll see, it doesn't have as much of a shimmer to it. It also isn't holographic. It's very pure colored. But basically, the gum arabic is creating this paint for the background, as if the stamp, the sentiment, and the background were all painted. So I'm going to do full coverage of that color. And you can save this, you can dump it upside down on a card front and see what kind of textures it creates. But I am going to grab a gold. I love gold and purple together. They are just gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous. I'm going to spritz off my purple though before I dip that in. And I'm actually just going to take what's on the top and I'm going to randomly spread bits of gold. I'm keeping my strokes sporadic. You see I'm not really adding any extra water, but my strokes are getting harder to create. I'm going to add just a little bit of water. And when you add too much water though, it'll start taking away that original layer, so I'm not going to add much more. But I just want to make sure that there's a hint of gold all around and through this drawing. You'll see it creates this shimmer, not a holographic shimmer, but still a shimmer, which is really cool and interesting. And it's just another way to elevate your cards and do the research. There are so many ways to use these types of powders. Now, as promised, I'm going to show you what this looks like if I dumped it upside down. It's like paint pouring. Alright, so now what we're going to do is I'm going to put this on a card base, and I'm going to use one of my Michael's Cheater card bases. If you watch any of my videos, you'll see that I still have large quantities of these to finish using. So until they are out of my space, they will continue to be used. Now if you're ever using mica powders and you touch it and you feel that texture coming off, there is one way to set it, and I will show you in a moment. This one is great. I don't need to set it. The gum Arabic sets it for you. So because there is a little embossing texture to the card base, I am going to use my Barely Art glue. Because there was an additive to the card, you will need to press this out. So I'm going to set this aside and put it under something a little heavier so that it'll force the glue to adhere. Now for this first card base, because there was not a mixative, what I'm going to do off screen is I am going to spritz it with this Dollar Tree hairspray. Shake it really well and give it a nice spritz so that the mica powder does not come off when it's touched. Now I'm going to go ahead and cut this down as well. Now you'll see for this one, I left no space for edges for the card base. I did that on purpose. Mostly because I want this to look like it's a picture or a chalk drawing of a picture. So I'm just going to add the Barely Art glue and then placing it down. Always make sure that it is facing the right direction. When you can't see the edges, it's very easy to do that. And now this has got some curling going as well. That extra layer of hairspray did make it curl. So I'm going to place this under something heavy to let it dry. The first sentiment I am choosing is from Not Too Shabby Shop, and it is Choose Kindness, Laugh Often. Originally I was going to stamp it out and fussy cut it, but I decided to do something different. So I am going to see how the Snow Flurries shows up on its own over the kaleidoscope powder and the hairspray. So this is an experiment, and you know what? It's gorgeous. Now I'm actually going to add a sentiment inside as well, because this is going to someone specific who was born and raised in Wisconsin, and something like this will remind them of Wisconsin. And the sentiment I have picked is from a Maker Forte stamp set that's a little older and may be discontinued, but it says, "Side by side or miles apart, we will always be connected by heart." Now, if you have not cleaned off your stamping assist, just be gentle and make sure that you are not adding any ink to places you do not want ink. This is what I term lazy stamping, or I'm just trying to get it done stamping, using my smusher again. And you know what? It's perfect just like that. So I'm going to set this aside and let it finish drying. So thank you for joining today's hop. I'm going to first show you the messy backgrounds that I made with the extras of the mica powder and the kaleidoscope powder. They're really fun, and I'm going to look forward to doing lots of interesting projects with them. But this one by far is probably my favorite. It looks like purple sea foam piling up on black dark sand, you know, in the night when there's luminescence and everything. So I think it's really cool, and I can't wait to play with those. So here is the first card that we did, Choose Kindness, Laugh Often, and with that black cardstock and the inside sentiment side by side or miles apart, we will always be connected by heart. That one is gorgeous in person. I hope it shows up as nicely as I see it. And then this Just Breathe, if you tilt it, you can see the different shimmers of the gold and how some of it, it's still a flat purple, but it has that little shimmer to it that's really makes it dimensional and different. Plus it looks like brush strokes, and I really love that effect. I hope you enjoyed today's hop, and don't forget to look down below for any of the links I have. I will also have a link for the next person in the hop, as well as I will try to have all the links for all of the videos in today's hop. And don't forget to check down below for any links I have for products that I used, as well as links to my store and my family's other channels and their stores. And if you want to support our crafty fun, then feel free to click on the link. I currently call it the Diaper Fund, but you can also donate there. And I hope you all have a wonderful day. Thank you for joining today's hop, and I hope to see you all very soon. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe if you haven't already, and have a wonderful day. Happy making! Bye! Cards. Done. Sorry. A little distracted by my son screaming at my dad. Choose kindness, laughed off. Choose kindness, laugh. Blech. The Borealis. It looks like Borealis. The Aurora Borealis. The Aurora Borealis. Oh my gosh. Alright, my dad apparently thinks it's jazz time.